Yeah, it's just well, hell, no one's in here yet, so I'm just hanging out. What's happening? I'm just getting stuff up and rolling. Whoever came in. What's up, Tori? Yeah, normally don't stream this time of day, but I wanted to hit some of this before Crump comes on later because I'll be sitting around watching him like everybody else. But just decided to get into this a little bit. So I think I didn't see. Well, Jared, I think posted something about it earlier today. I saw it. I don't know. Whenever I got this alert on my phone for this hearing, but oh man, the Senate's pushing a bill tomorrow that is absolutely insane. In a minute, I'll do a screen share on this and I'll try to get it to where everybody can kind of see what's going on. I forgot to start up my browser in the other, start this up in the other browser. So that, and hopefully the storm doesn't kill my damn internet. Let's see if this thing will act right. So let's see if I can do it this way. Let's see if this will. Okay, so that might show up a little better. I'll give it just another minute or two, see if anybody else shows up. Then I'll start talking about this because I'll end up reposting the show anyway. Oh, man. But this is coming from the House Judiciary Committee, and this hearing is happening tomorrow. Back something up, and I'll see if I can figure out when exactly it's happening. So this is happening at 10 a.m. tomorrow, or Tuesday. I'm sorry. I thought it was tomorrow, but this is actually Tuesday. They say this is happening on the 2nd. So this is going to get downright fun. All right, so it looks like it's showing it pretty good. Anyway, let's go into this real quick because we're going to run through some stuff. So this was I don't even think this bill's necessarily been, well, it had to have been submitted, but I don't think it's even got a bill number yet. Oh, and this one's going to be a freaking doozy. And I didn't have time to go in and do my normal edits before I go over like I would in a normal paper cuts video. So we're just going to run this one live and look through it. So this bill has a bunch of different things in it. Of course, they got the normal emotional titles, Save Our Kids or Protecting Our Kids. Let's see if we can bring this over a little bit. From the looks on my screen, you guys should be able to see this pretty good. So this bill isn't just one bill. This is almost like what they do with these omnibus bills where they just start stacking everything in on top of one another. That's what this bill is. I just got in from work and I am tired, and these idiots are, well, we'll go through it. This stuff's insane. So the first thing they're doing, of course, they want to raise the age of 21. Nothing new there. They've been trying to push that crap for a while. The preventions on gun trafficking, there's some pretty tough stuff in there. Untraceable firearms, of course, they are going after anything as far as ghost guns. They are basically going to make it illegal to have an unserialized frame or receiver, whether you're printing them, buying them, you name it. If you picked one up off the street, you now have an illegal object in your hand. And I think some of these penalties are ranging on right up into like 10 years. So, all right. And then, of course, they got safe storage in here. Bump stocks are added in here because, let's face it, they're the Democrats. They're going to throw anything in here they can. Restricting large capacity magazine ban. So there's a magazine ban in here. Magazine ban, ghost gun ban. Putting more firearms, I think, under the NFA. They're throwing everything against the wall here. So the raise the age stuff is pretty cut and dry. Even if you don't go in and edit the code, they're basically saying that it's illegal for anyone who is under 21 to be able to buy ammunition or to be able to buy firearms if those firearms are semi-automatic and center fired. They put in here, they have a magazine capacity exceeding 5 rounds, so they throw a couple stipulations on it. What they don't realize is you could take a normal pump action shotgun and do exactly what this dude did. And when they do something like that, you bet there's going to be more bans on that end of it. Let's see. There's a couple of cool things, or not cool things, but a couple of things to look at in here. Of course, that's just all about raising the age, getting into 922, 921 unlawful acts. qualified individual, they're basically talking about anybody who's active duty military or active duty law enforcement can get around this, which I don't know how many people that would actually do anything with. So they do get in here and they throw some money at the Bureau FBI. And then the FBI, I think, ends up with a couple of reporting sections that they've got to get through in here. So, yeah, the report should include minimum age, including the following description of the protocols that they put in place. This is all stuff for your background checks. Now, getting into the gun, remember, this is all in one bill. So getting into the gun trafficking end of this chapter, they stick 37 at the end. This is all basically in the definition section of the law. So they define family, spouse, partners, parents, children, including step-parents, stepchildren, siblings, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, grandparents, grandchildren. Basically getting into, if you're buying a gun for someone other than those people, you are guilty of gun trafficking. Shall be unlawful for any person other than a license or licensee under this chapter to otherwise, and here we go with one of my favorite terms on this planet, the interstate of foreign commerce, to knowingly purchase or acquire or attempt to purchase or acquire a firearm for the possession of a third party. What's up, Ron? So again, they're getting into these restrictions on buying this gun for a third party, getting into the 4473s when you have to check that box and say, I'm buying this gun for myself. Now, that still brings up, if I am buying a gun to resell to somebody, and I know that I'm going to resell that gun, when I check that box on that 4473, under laws like this, I'm a straw purchaser. Because I am not a business. I don't have an FFL. If I'm buying that gun to resale, this stuff like this would make me a straw purchaser. Shall be unlawful for any person other than a licensee, enter or affecting otherwise foreign state of commerce, to hire, solicit, command, induce, or otherwise endeavor to persuade another person to purchase or attempt to purchase any firearm for the purpose of obtaining the firearm, for the person, or selling or transferring the firearm to a third party. That is one of the big lines that gets into this. So someone's looking for a certain gun. I can find that gun. I buy that gun. I go to sell that gun to them. I'm a straw purchaser. I really want to hit a few more of these things real quick. So I'm kind of flying through this. I'll do another video breakdown on this. I just wanted to put this out here pretty quick. Now, the Attorney General shall, he's basically saying the Attorney General shall make sure that the 4473 basically contains a section warning about all of these new changes. And you can bet they'll switch that form around again, make it easier for them to scan if they've got any issues with anything. Now, again, section shall not apply to any firearm if the purchaser or person acquiring the firearm has no reason to believe that the recipient of the firearm will use or intends to use the firearm in a crime or is prohibited from purchasing or possessing firearms under state or federal law. Now, remember, right up there, it defined everybody you could buy a gun for or give a gun to. And it ain't here. This is getting into the, again, into the legal end, the buying a gun, giving it to someone else, selling it to someone else. By this law, all that's going to be illegal. All this shit about gun trafficking, they're trying to hit that hard. Now, here is another one in this section, which is your forfeitures. So section 982, I've only touched on that a little bit. That has to do with like civil asset forfeitures and forfeiting whatever you have once you're in a legal bind, I should say. And then they also get into money laundering sections in here. That's in a complete other bill. They've pulled so many sections out of other bills that I've covered and stuck them into this bill. And remember, this hearing, I thought it was tomorrow. This is actually going on the 2nd is when they're doing this hearing. And you can pretty much bet with the House being structured the way it is right now that they will pass this bill. It's pretty much without question the House will pass it. Let's see. So this is 922D. They get into a bunch more edits in here. This would be for your violations. I'm pretty sure that's where this fit to these other people. Of course, that's going to put you in that bind. But if you were ever caught doing something like that, say, again, you bought a gun to resell it to someone else, that's 10 years in prison and the fine. Firearm subject to forfeiture, goes into all that. So basically, it's just giving them more room to take everything that you own. Now, here's some of the more interesting stuff in here. This is the untraceable, what they call the untraceable firearms or their ghost guns provisions in here. And I'll try to make this stuff make a little bit more sense since I don't have everything added in, but you'll get a big part of the gist. So they've got to go into terms and they have to define the term and then, hey, Chris, what's up? So they have to define the term and then they have to get that in one section of law. Then they've got to go through crimes and they've got to go through penalties and all that. So in their definition here, by adding at the end, the term manufacturing firearms shall include assembling a functional firearm or molding, machining, 3D printing a frame or receiver, and shall not include making or fitting special stocks, barrels, or trigger mechanisms to firearms. That is their definition of going to be their damage of, or their definition of manufacturing firearms now. And understand, look at it in big bold letters. People think they're not going after 3D printing. They're going after it, and they're coming hard. They add in paragraph 38 here, which defines ghost guns, which means a firearm, including a frame or receiver, that includes your 3D printing, that lacks a unique serial number engraved or cast into the frame or receiver by a licensed manufacturer, importer, or in accordance with this chapter. Does not include a firearm that has been basically made inoperable, which, if you guys know, to make a firearm inoperable, you basically have to do things to destroy the barrel, destroy the receiver, all that. If not, that firearm would be considered readily restorable, and then you run into another issue. All right, a firearm that has been rendered inoperable, a firearm that not later than 30 months after the date of enactment of this paragraph has been identified by means of a unique serial number assigned by a state government agency, engraved or cast on the frame or receiver of the firearm in accordance with state law. So 30 months after this bill goes through, you have to get all of your guns serialized. That's another part of this bill. If you don't get your guns serialized, well, then you are in possession of ghost guns, and they will try to throw you under a freaking jail. Let's see. Firearms manufactured. So they did leave a exception for the guns before 68, December of 68. Firearm identified as provided for in a section of the Internal Revenue Code. I'd have to look that up to make sure really where that sits in. The term fire control component. Why do you think they would mention fire control component in this? Remember what I've said many times about them going after parts? They're going after them. Means any component necessary for the firearm to initiate or complete the firing sequence. Any part. Including hammer, bolt, breech lock, cylinder, trigger mechanism, firing pin, striker, slide rails. The term frame or receiver, they got to define that, means a part of the weapon that provides or is intended to provide the housing for a structure to hold or ignite or integrate one or more fire control components, even if the pins or other attachments are required to connect those components to the housing or structure. They going deep. What's up, Warsaw? Yeah, man. Ultimately, that's exactly what they're going after, is anything Second Amendment related. All right. Their definition includes a frame or receiver, blank casting, or machine body that requires modification, including machining, drilling, filing, or molding, to be used as part of a functional firearm, and which is designed and intended to be used in the assembly of a functional firearm, unless the piece of material has its size or external shape altered solely to facilitate transportation or storage, or solely its chemical composition altered. For purpose, in other words, if you had a ghost gunner sitting there and you had you were going to do a 0% receiver and you had a block of aluminum sitting there, that single block of aluminum without being milled is now a receiver or a frame to them. So for the purposes subparagraph AI, well, I cut off part of that. If a weapon with more, or here it is. So if a weapon with more than one part provides a housing for a structure designed to hold or integrate one or more fire control or essential components, each such part shall be considered a frame or receiver unless the Attorney General has provided otherwise by regulation under formal determination with respect to specific make, model of weapon on or before January 1st, 2023. So even if your Attorney General didn't want every part of those firearms to be separate receivers, you really think he's going to get all that in before January 1st of 2023? So if a weapon with one or with more than one part that provides the housing or structure designed to hold or integrate one or more fire control or essential component, they break it down into essential components, each such part shall be considered a frame or receiver. Yeah, Heath. Yeah, this is they're having, if you guys didn't catch what I was saying earlier, they're having a hearing about this on the 2nd at 10 o'clock. The House Judiciary is hearing this, and you can pretty much bet your ass they're going to push this through. So that's just all their definitions up there, at least for this section. Because remember, all they did was they took a bunch of different bills and they put them together and put this out. And we've warned about them doing stuff like that in the past. So prohibition requirement, section 922, that's basically your unlawful acts, is amended by adding at the end the following. Except as provided in subparagraph B, it shall be unlawful for any person to manufacture, sell, offer to sell, transfer, purchase, or receive a ghost gun affecting interstate or foreign commerce. So all your 3D printed frames and receivers, all this great work guys are doing right now, the House is going to pass this. I doubt whether it'll make it through the Senate, but if by some way this made it through, that just made all of your shit illegal. And they'll talk a little bit more about some of the equipment in here in a minute if I get to it. I'm going to try to fly through it so I can catch Trump or a Crump show. All right, shall not apply to the manufacture of firearms by a licensed manufacturer. So licensed manufacturers are going to be able to still build guns. Whoopee. Firearm purchase, receipt of firearm, licensed manufacturer or importer before the date that is 30 months after the date of this enactment of this subsection. Now, after that date, even a licensed manufacturer can't touch a so-called ghost gun. Tell me how you build a gun. Transaction between license importers on any date. It shall be unlawful for a person other than a licensed manufacturer or importer to engrave or cast serial numbers on a firearm affecting interstate or foreign commerce unless specifically authorized by the Attorney General. You can't serialize your own guns. Beginning the date 30 months after the date of enactment of this subsection, it shall be unlawful for any person other than a licensed manufacturer or licensed importer to knowingly possess a ghost gun, enter affecting interstate. I hate that clause. Begin on the date 30 months after the date of enactment of this subsection, it shall be unlawful for any person other than a licensed manufacturer, licensed import to possess a ghost gun, enter affecting interstate or foreign commerce with the intent to transfer, sell, all that shit. Shall be unlawful for any person to sell, offer to sell, transfer, enter affecting interstate or foreign commerce to any person other than a licensed manufacturer a machine that has the sole or primary function of manufacturing firearms. So yeah, I got my 3D printer. I can print anything, but I print frames sometimes. You really think they're not going to try to put you in jail and charge you? And then you're going to have to spend money arguing that that's not that printer's primary job? Ghost gunner's gone. Legal. Illegal. See you. Except as provided in subparagraph A, beginning on the date 180 days after the enactment of the subsection, it shall be unlawful for any person other than a licensed manufacturer to possess, purchase, or receive, enter affecting interstate or foreign commerce, a machine that has the sole or primary function of manufacturing firearms. And again, they get to decide what that primary function is. Subparagraph B shall not apply to a person who is engaged in the business of selling manufacturing equipment to a licensed manufacturer who possesses a machine with the intent to sell or transfer the machine to a licensed manufacturer. That's their exemption. Removal of serial numbers. Why this is even here, I think all they're doing is they're kind of expanding a little bit of the definition, and then I think they might expand the fine. Well, I don't even think they get into that. So this section is a little bit, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Not later than 180 days after the date of enactment of this paragraph, the Attorney General shall prescribe regulations for engraving a unique serial number onto a ghost gun. I'm trying to keep an eye out for the time. The regulations prescribed under the subparagraph shall allow an owner of a firearm described in subparagraph A, all that shit up there, to have a unique serial number engraved on the firearm by a licensed manufacturer or importer, and require that a serial number be engraved on the frame or receiver in any manner sufficient to identify the firearm and the licensed manufacturer or importer that actually serialized it. And remember, we just talked about up there, they want to count anything that can possibly hold a part of the fire control group, a frame or receiver. So you're going to have a lot of serial numbers on your guns. Regulations authorized under this paragraph shall expire on a date that is 30 months after the date of enactment of this paragraph. So 30 months after the date of enactment of this, you can no longer get your gun serialized. They will be illegal. Penalties, they went in here since they updated that queue. They had to update all the queue and the AAs and all this crap in here. Inserting functional before firearm. There's just some administrative edits up there. A person and inserting the following. All are part of the functional firearm. This was a little bit about brandishing. It's basically if someone saw part of your firearm and said you were brandishing, that's a charge. That's where they're drilling down in here. So this is another subsection they've been trying to push through for a while, and I do believe it is in the other ghost gun bill they pulled the rest of this crap out of. Let's see. Possession of a functional firearm. All right, so a person who violates any of that, in the case of the first violation, this was about the brandishing, shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 1 year, both. In case of any subsequent violation, the person is fined and imprisoned not more than 5 years. This is their wet dream about untraceable firearms or undetectable firearms, because they apparently saw Die Hard and thought you can make a gun that will go through a metal detector without any issues. And they pretty much still leave. This is all, a lot of this is all an existing law, unless I miss something that they changed, and I'm going to have to go back in and compare it a little bit more later. Let's see, subparagraph C, by striking any major component of which, insert the following. A major component of a firearm which, if subjected to inspection by the types of detection devices commonly used at airports for security screening, would not generate basically a hit. And I think part of this is still going after printed frames and receivers, because you don't have any metal in those. If you strip them all the way down, there's no metal. There's no ident tag and all that, unless you go through the crap Reno May went through. If that's still about all the supposedly undetectable guns, which the term undetectable material, any material that creates a magnetic field equivalent to 3.7 ounces. So I don't think that's still there. They didn't change that. They are doing some weird shit with the wording that I'm going to have to read to really make sense of. And I'm skimming, because I just got to skim it a little bit earlier and then decided to go ahead and, when I got home, do this video. So they even mentioned a prototype. All right, safe storage. This is one thing. Well, they've actually got like 3 or 4 different sections in here for safe storage. Going to buzz down through this one kind of quick. It's 4:37 now. So they take 922Z, and at the end of 922Z, they add this in. Secure gun storage by owners. Offense. In general, except as provided by Clause 2, it shall be unlawful for a person to store or keep any firearm that is moved or that has otherwise affected interstate or foreign commerce. I hate that clause. This is what all their gun control is based on, is the interstate commerce clause. Let me get back, because I lost my place. Okay. It shall be unlawful for a person to store or keep any firearm that is moved, affecting interstate or foreign commerce on the premises of a residence under the control of a person, if that person knows or reasonably should know a minor is likely to gain access to the firearm without permission of the parent or guardian of the minor. Now, understand, your child could just go in there and touch the gun. That's all they have to do. This talks about having guns in a residence with someone who is prohibited possessor. That's pretty much same as it is in law right now. Shall not apply if the person keeps the firearm basically on them wearing it. I took mine for a sec and set it down right there. Carries firearm on his or her person or within reach, proximity. Penalty, except as otherwise provided in the subsection. Any person who violates subparagraph shall be fined $500 per violation. Understand, every gun that is not stored in the manner they want them stored is a $500 violation. And guess what? They throw in forfeiture here in perpetuity. So let's see. Any firearm stored in violation of subsection A shall be subjected to seizure and forfeiture in accordance with the procedures described in section 924D. And they define a minor as anyone under 18 years old, which we all know that. Then they get into firearm storage programs. They're going to throw a lot of money at enforcement of things like that safe storage law up there. They get into basically any year that these people, states and localities, will try to enforce a law like this. They're going to throw serious money at them. I'll see if I can find it real quick. They're actually throwing $10 million at this stuff, I think, a year for the next 10 years. If I can't find it real quick, I'll probably end this in just a sec. But let's say they throw the Kimberly Vaughn Safe Storage Act in here. The Kimberly Vaughn Safe Storage Act. They've changed some things. This is still about grant programs to actually finance their safe storage. Forgive me, guys. I'm going to do another breakdown of this. This is one of the parts I wanted to get through. There's authorized to be appropriated to the Attorney General to carry out this section, $10 million for each fiscal year from 2023 to 2033 to remain available until expended. So they are throwing serious money at the enforcement of that safe storage law that we just read or just went over up there. I mean, serious money. $10 million a year is not chicken feed to throw at this stuff. Then they throw out how all this grant money's got to be done. And I think there's some more money in another one of these sections for these grants. So there's a whole nother section about safe firearm storage credit. They actually done a little bit of tax break for you. You get 10% of whatever you send on safe storage back. Only up to $400 because, yeah, screw you. They get into Public Safety Commission in here because they've got to get that little agency involved to start regulating this stuff. And then finally, closing the bump stock loophole, which is a big giant pile of shit. So, and I'll do some more about that. But anyway, I'm going to head out. I'm going to grab me something, chill out for a little bit before Crump stream. So I think, well, there's only one guy in here now. So anyway, you guys be cool. We'll see you in the chats on the next ones. If you get a chance to find this bill, you can find it right off the House Judiciary's page. So I'm out.